Welcome to Inner Peace Better Health. I am your host, Shreya. With Dr. Kaylee Bohnhoff, nurse, trauma therapist, and spiritual guide who has transformed her own pain into a mission of hope. Her story and work reveal that within every traumatized family lies a sacred potential, a hidden strength that can lead to profound healing and freedom. So, welcome, Dr. Kaylee. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here.
And Dr. Kelly, you have said that within every family affected by trauma lies a sacred potential. What does that mean to you?
Well, my journey from my personal childhood into nursing, therapy, and nearly 40 years now of having the honor of being with severely traumatized children and teens and couples and families, I noticed that we were all in a pattern of survival. And the hidden power is our wisdom, our resilience, and our genius that is lying underneath all of the pain and the suffering and the survival mechanisms that our families have inherited throughout the ages. And so I didn't understand that at the beginning. It wasn't until I was age of around 57 years old during the pandemic that I had my own awakening and remembering of this beautiful energy and this pattern that I had noticed with families. So families, including my own, are able to heal trauma, unlock their hidden power of wisdom, resilience, and genius, and remember what is sacred, which for me, sacred is just worthy of unconditional love, devotion, and reverence. So we can heal ourselves from within once we set an intention to do so.
Yes, that is so true. And thank you for sharing this with our audience. And how did you first recognize this in your healing journey?
Well, when I was a little girl, I knew that there was something, I had the ability to read energy and to move the energy of others kind of through me or to me to help with this pain or what I call anguish without measure. So as a little girl, I knew there was something different about me, but I had to shut that down because I needed to survive in the environment I was in. And then late, because I had at that point forgotten my abilities to empathically heal others, I really was in a lot of pain myself, unbeknownst to me. So, as a wounded healer, I was trying through my education as a nurse and a therapist to understand from a psychological and a biological perspective what was happening. But it really opened up for me when I was an essential worker during the pandemic, when I was told that I couldn't see families the way I had been. And I had a mental, emotional, psychological, physical, and spiritual existential crisis. Because when I was told I couldn't be the person I had been for all that time, I was in so much pain by then. I'd been holding so much anguish, my own and other people's, that I was at a breaking point and I broke. I literally broke. And I had a dream at that time. And it was that dream that helped me to understand the last piece of this puzzle, which was that our families are quantum, they're energy. And because I didn't understand how the energy was flowing through families and that all of that beautiful hidden power was underneath the pain, as a nurse and therapist, I only had part of the equation. But once I had my spiritual awakening, I had all the pieces. And that is how the book was born. And that is how I'm able to help families remember how they can heal themselves.
Yes, that is so beautiful. And that perspective feels like a reframe of trauma into possibility. And many may wonder, can pain truly be the doorway to power? And
Right. And so one of the ways that I have been able to personally and through my own intergenerational healing, I began to notice that I was moving from energetic and emotional stages. So I did move through helplessness and hopelessness, through anger and rage, through shame and blame. The turning point of the energy was with courage, was at the point of courage, willingness, and receptivity. And then it moved then into connection, love, freedom, and these kind of things. And so I created something I call the Family Healing Consciousness Scale. And it helps families understand where they are in that journey of emotional and energetic pattern so that our emotions and patterns aren't to be concerned about. In other words, they're not good or bad, they're neutral, they're sacred. All emotions, energy and motion are sacred. Only when we bring meaning to an emotion does it begin to feel what I call heavy. And so, as our families begin to understand they are carrying an inherited heavy emotional pattern, they are able to see it, to love it, to have courage to face it instead of flee or fight or freeze. We turn to face into that shadow or into that feeling that we've denied or disowned, and we wrap our arms around it metaphorically as we would a small child and say, "Oh, tell me your story. Tell me what I can do to move the energy." And what I discovered was the shadows, my own anguish, was waiting for freedom. In other words, it was as excited to move into joy and freedom and abundance as any part of me was. And so to turn to face into that turbulent emotion, which we were programmed and conditioned to believe was not good. I was raised in an environment where I'll give you something to cry about. Right. And so I was trained from a young age not to feel my emotion, but we need to feel it to heal it. And that is what humanity is moving through right now. We are healing. We are, the heal for me is honoring the energy aligned with love. We are healing our energy as humanity, as one human family. That is what we're seeing in the world right now.
Yes. Are there small daily practices that can make that shift more accessible?
Yes, there are. And I'm so glad you asked. And so I've designed something that really helped me first. I want to make sure anything I share with anyone, including families, that I've done this myself, that it works for me. So imagine we're in a field of dreams or this beautiful quantum realm, our families, our energy, and we're surfing actually into our highest potential. So imagine a surfboard. So I created a surfboard, and at the very tip of the surfboard, I created something for me that's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 hug. So, what happens when we're programmed and conditioned in trauma early in childhood? That programming stays with us throughout life until we rewire it. And so we've got about 5 seconds of our subconscious mind. If we're in the world and we're feeling edgy or we're having a no good, very bad day. And in that 5 seconds, I count down. If I'm starting to feel a little bit anxious, I count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I hug, which is harnessing unconditional gratitude. So I allow my survival, my subconscious mind to rest, and it interrupts any pattern of anxiety or frustration or worry. If that doesn't work, I move to kind of the middle of this surfboard, which is free in 60 seconds, which is I stop and be still. I drop into 3 breaths and I be in that moment. In other words, I face whatever the emotion or the feeling is that I'm having in that moment. So I stop, I drop, and I be. And if that doesn't help my nervous system be less nervous, I go to something I do every day, which is the foundation of the work I do with families worldwide, which is called Look to the Stars. The stars are stillness, thankfulness, affirmation, reflection, and showing up. for yourself, your family, humanity, and the natural world. And that is done really with just 5 minutes a day. So, this surfboard, I use it as kind of this analogy or metaphor to surf the energy that I become aware of in every moment of my waking life. So, every breath, every heartbeat, every step, every thought, I am aligned, balanced, and connected to my highest state of freedom, my highest state of love, my highest state of joy. And that has been the key to allowing me to live in a space of heaven on earth, even in the midst of the turbulence and the healing that our world is going through right now.
Yes, yes, that is like I fully agree, and that's so powerful because it acknowledges both the beauty of love and the raw struggle. And also, I imagine many listeners are craving those simple double steps thing that feel within reach, even when the wounds feel overwhelming.
Absolutely. It's got to be practical. It has to be practical and it's got to be free in the sense of and it's got to be mobile. And what I mean by that is families, people can do that in their cars. They can do it at dinner. They can do it sitting in traffic. It they can do it anywhere at any time, and it helps them to just give themselves enough space to slow the momentum of what I call the default operating system into the divine operating system, which is our natural state.
Yes, I imagine many listeners are craving those simple double steps thing that feel within reach, even when the wounds feel overwhelming.
This is such a profound and beautiful question, and this speaks to my heart deeply because for many of us, what would we know about unconditional love when we were saturated in conditional love? When the world and the systems around us are all conditioned, you know? And so for me, talking about unconditional love is a concept. It wasn't until I had a felt sense of unconditional love or love without condition that I could even have a conversation about it. And so the first thing I found myself understanding was I had to discover for myself what unconditional love felt like in my body because I did not feel my body. I was highly dissociative. I would take off out of my body. So the very first thing I had to do was to create a safe and secure environment for myself to begin to explore what love even felt like to me. And I know that many people feel this way, that particularly from childhood, we don't know what unconditional love even feels like. And so I decided to do something I'd never done before, which was to order a cup of caterpillars. And I watched those caterpillars grow into butterflies. And then I set the butterflies free. And when I did this as an adult, I was holding one of the butterflies on my finger and it didn't want to fly. And I felt such empathy because I felt that so much in my own life in this uncertainty and unfamiliar places I was going and it would not fly and it just sat there with its wings fluttering. And so I sat with this beautiful butterfly for several minutes and I felt it. I felt this what I refer to as love without condition, and I could feel it in my body. And when I did that, when I had that opportunity, when I devoted myself to knowing myself and what self love meant, was when I could understand what unconditional love is. And I believe in my heart that as each one of us devotes ourselves to self knowledge, to knowing ourselves and what love feels like to us, that will be the key. And that will be what will ripple within our families, our societies, and the world.
Beautiful, the way you said. And like, but I have a question, but what if love feels blocked when anger, shame, or fear dominates? And how do families move past that wall?
Well, the first thing to do or to consider is to be curious. So this is a very important point you're making. So instead of turning and facing into that's a block, that's a wall, I am mad, you're to blame, whatever all that is, what we do is we get curious. We begin to speak in what is referred to as compassionate witnessing, or what I refer to as compassionate witnessing. So we would be curious about the way we see, the way we feel, the way we know, the way we're experiencing a certain pattern or an interaction. So the first thing to do is to be curious and to notice that we're feeling that way. The next thing is to be creative in how we explore that particular, what feels heavy, what feels like a block, what feels like it's been there forever. And then we go into connection with ourselves first. So this refers to radical responsibility. Every member of a family takes responsibility for their feelings, not to judge. This is very important. No judgment of a feeling, but to bring into more of a compassionate witnessing, a compassionate witness language. So, for instance, if a family is healing violence, inherited violence within their family, and they notice that things are heating up, that there are spicy words flying, that people are getting passionately animated, that energy is moving, it'll just take one person to say, I notice that we're about to get into this heavy energy. I'm curious, is there a way to slow this down? I wonder if we can get creative. And one of the ways that has been so powerful for families to just notice the pattern first, then to be curious, not judgmental, is to put on music, is to say, what will we do if this starts to move in the direction we don't want? Well, let's put this song on. Let's dance for a minute, or we can look to the stars. We can be still, be thankful. We can affirm that we are going to meet this pattern with love and we're going to dissolve it. We're going to shift the energy right here together right now. That's the intention. We pay attention and stay focused on dissolving the energy. And then we take inspired action, not impulsive action. The impulsive action is the old operating system where fists fly or people walk out or screaming ensues. And so this is just really for families to begin to wonder, to be curious, and then to intend to unravel or to dissipate the energy that's moving without judgment.
Yes, that's so powerful. And also, you often speak about transforming fear into freedom. What does that transformation actually look like in the real life of a family?
Great question. So, fear, the acronym there is familiar energy aligned with resistance. And families are quantum, they are energy. So, what is it that we are resisting exactly? And this took me a long time to understand, but I realized I was resisting life itself. In other words, as a little girl, the world was a dangerous place to me. I did not feel as if life had my back. I felt like it was one crisis after another, that I just had to hunker down and just mine, through a minefield, crawling like an army soldier through whatever was happening next. And so I had no relationship to life itself, which is infinite intelligence, pure love, and sacred energy. Some refer to that as God or source or universe. I refer to it as life. And so the fear, the resistance is to life, is to trusting that life is moving to me, through me, as me, that my life is filled with opportunities to heal, unlock, and remember. And so this reframe from fear, which is the resistance to life flowing through me, into freedom. So what does it look like in real life for families? What they notice is when they step out of the old programming and fear of the unknown, the unfamiliar, the uncertain, they begin to feel lighter in their body. They're not holding the heavy energy that they inherited anymore. And they begin to move from life in the fast lane, busy, 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 making sure they have no time, lots of distractions, lots of noise. They notice they move from the fast lane of life to the flow lane of life, which means they're living together intuitively. They're living together with what feels good in this moment to do, to be, to have. And so it's in this flow of life, dancing with life, that they're free. They're free to uncover and explore their wisdom, their resilience, and their genius. So now their power is online. And anytime the older, heavier energy comes into their awareness, they're able to say, oh, hello, we don't dance there anymore. We don't need to learn anything from that suffering anymore. We're into sovereignty. We choose our experiences. We create our reality from here. And so rather than feeling the fear of resistance to life, they dance in the freedom to be everything they were born to be as a family.
That's so powerful and gives a refreshment to all this. And if my listener after this want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
My website is the very best way. It's onesacredfamily.com.
To all my listeners, what a powerful exchange. Dr. Kaylee Bohnhoff reminds us that even in the deepest pain, families can awaken to love, strength, and sacred freedom. If today's conversation starts something in you,